Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors night meeting for Thursday, November 17th. Just a reminder for the agenda this evening, a recording device will be used. I want to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to open up the meeting tonight with the public comment for agenda items. Seeing that there's only one guest, do you have a public comment? Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to minutes of the previous meeting. Do we have those for tonight?
No, they're on the minutes.
Okay, got it.
Sorry. Thank
All
you,
right,
Lisa.
so then we're going to go over the, we'll start with the treasurer's report and the authorization to pay bill. I had a chance to look at this already.
Okay, I have reviewed the bills and didn't find any problems, and so I'll make a motion to authorize the payment of bills and approve the payroll.
All second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Luke, I'll turn it over to you for Township Manager's report,
I have no report this evening.
okay? And then, Matt, do you have anything?
I do not have a report this evening.
All right, and how about you, Acting Chief?
Yes, sir. Good evening. In October 2022, East Brandywine Township Police completed 2,156 incidents. These incidents include 231 investigations, which resulted in 2 criminal arrests and 4 warrant arrests. Officers also conducted 8 vehicle accident investigations. In addition to these activities, East Brandywine officers performed traffic enforcement, resulting in 108 traffic citations and 63 written warnings. Officers logged a total of 10,049 patrol miles this month. Finally, Officer Smith and Officer Miller successfully completed their second week of accident recon training, so they could start doing fatal and serious accident reconstructions. That's it for the evening.
Thank you. And I don't see anybody here from the fire department, so I'll go ahead and do theirs. East Brandywine Township, there was 17 fire calls, 10 medical, and there was 175.1 gallons of fuel used in East Brandywine Township. Average number of personnel on call was 25. Okay, Planning Commission meeting from October 5th.
Yeah, included in your packet is a copy of the Planning Commission's minutes of October the 5th. It's included to you as their report to the board.
We need a motion to accept those?
I would think it would be appropriate for the motion to adopt all the reports as submitted.
All right, I'll make a motion to adopt all reports as submitted for the November 17th meeting.
Including the October 5th Planning Commission meetings. I will make a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Luke now for the guest and overflow parking revisions.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. Hot off the presses, and I have a visual aid for this. We have a proposed ordinance from the Ordinance Task Force. It pertains to the guest or shared parking areas for higher density residential developments in the community. I've got a visual aid. I'm going to project it. I'm first going to cue it up for the video. Anybody at home? So this is a typical townhouse development in East Brandywine Township. I chose this because it's a great example of what the Ordinance Task Force would like to see. So I hope no one who lives here and is watching this feels like we're picking on them. But this is a townhouse development in East Brandywine Township. Right now, our code reads that a developer must provide for 2 1/4 spaces for each unit in a townhouse development. And they're allowed to count, as I've marked here, they can count 2 spaces in the garage and 2 spaces in the driveway. So this development, as it appears here, would be approved. And they would be providing more spaces than is required by the ordinance. Through experience, what we've seen in townhouse developments is there's not enough common parking areas. That may be enough for the people who reside, but it doesn't account for people who are hosting social gatherings of some variety. So the intent of the draft legislation included in your packet is to make it so that only 2 spaces on an individual parcel can be counted towards the requirement. So the requirement would be to provide 2.5 spaces, but you can only count 2 on the lot. So in this example, 1 in the garage would count and 1 in the driveway would count, but they would still need to provide a half space per unit elsewhere in the development. And that encourages, in this example, the provision of some additional bump out or parallel parking in the development. If you'll cast your minds back to the presentation from the Mapleview developer, both the approved plan and their proposed revised plan satisfied the required parking in our ordinance. The reason that the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, and to some, I won't speak for them, but I imagine to some extent, the HOA pushed back on changes that would reduce the off-site parking was precisely because the developer could argue that our revised plan meets the code, but it was eliminating common parking areas. And so this is an attempt by the Ordinance Task Force to rectify that situation. The Ordinance Task Force met as late as yesterday and made revisions to the draft that's included in your packet. The motion, at the board's pleasure, would be to direct the township solicitor to put it in the format of an ordinance, and township staff to refer that ordinance to the county for Act 247 review. And that's my brief introduction. Tom, did you have anything that you would like to add to what I summarized there?
I do not. Thank you. May I add a little bit of background?
Oh, please.
Luke, that's a wonderful presentation. One quick question. You said a quarter space. I thought it was a half space, or is the half space the new number?
The quarter space was the old number, half would be the new.
Okay.
So in addition to
I've seen
where
the
you
quarter,
could count
I've seen
it.
the halves in there so long, I thought, right.
Right.
What the Ordinance Task Force Committee did with Luke's leadership was to, as you recall last month, look at all the potential changes and questions as to road widths and et cetera, and it came up that when you really look at it, that's stuff that should be under the subdivision ordinance, which is Article, 350?
Chapter 350 of our code is the
Or Chapter
subdivision and
350
land
of our
development
code.
chapter, yes.
Code, and that all we need to define here is what's a parking space. So we eliminated over half the wording and just limited to defining what a parking space is. So I think it's a very efficient change, and the Ordinance Task Force, in conjunction with the Planning Commission in the future, will be reviewing Article 350 to make sure those numbers are up to date and rational and with the modern times, if you will. And those meetings will have both the solicitor, and if we're going to review it, we'll ask the engineer to be there, so we won't waste any more time. We won't have to postpone things. We'll keep things moving before we get inundated with other developments. And I want to thank Luke for the extra work that was needed to come up with a good solution here.
Okay, and I'm in agreement with this as well. This is long overdue. So for me, I'm okay with permission to advertise. Are you okay?
Yes.
All right, so I make a motion for Luke to go ahead and advertise the Act 247 referral.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to you, Luke, for preliminary budget.
All right, so included in your packet this evening, in a smaller format than the last time you saw it, is a preliminary budget. The preliminary budget is mostly unchanged from when the Budget Committee made its presentation to you at the AM meeting on November 7th. November, 2 weeks ago on Thursday, I'll say that. There are a couple line items that have changed, and this came out of feedback from the board and a budget committee that was held last Thursday. Your attention is drawn to two line items. One, for the MS4 permit administration, it has been revised downward to reflect the actual quote for that service that appears later on in this agenda. That's Cedarville's charges to us to administer the MS4 program. So that has been rounded down from an estimate that was there before to an actual of $31,900, which is the proposal that the board will consider later in this meeting. Also, at the pension meeting that was after the board's meeting 2 weeks ago, staff was given authorization to revise and restate the two, the uniformed and non-uniformed pension plans at a cost of $7,000. After consideration, the Budget Committee recommends that instead of paying that expense out of the funds contained in the pension balances themselves, they be paid as an administrative cost from the general fund. So there is a new line item pertaining to the administrative cost for pension plans, and it has been populated with a figure of $7,000, which was the figure that staff was authorized to spend on that project. Those two changes aside, this is precisely the same budget that was before you 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I know-
And I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt. I would just say with the action item for tonight would be, it would, yes, we would advertise this and place it on our website for public comment. The board would then consider adopting this budget at its second meeting in December.
I looked at it, I know Carl was part of this as well. Jason, do you have any questions?
I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right, well then, I make a motion to advertise the 2022 budget, preliminary budget.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Luke, you might as well just keep rolling here.
All right. So the next item included in your packet is a proposal for professional services prepared by Cedarville Engineering Group. It was what I referred to in the budget presentation as the cost that they charge for keeping us current with the obligations in our MPDS permit. I know everybody gets these and immediately flips to the very end to see what it costs. And the answer to that, as I referenced earlier, $31,900. And there's a breakdown of the tasks that they will be performing for that investment. They will keep us current with the presentations and training. If you'll recall, the first meeting in November, we had our annual report required per our MPDS permit, where Beth presented a program update. They will keep our GIS mapping current. That's used by our Public Works crew to track their maintenance of the MS4 outfalls and inlets in our system. The inspections, there's two sets of inspections there. Those inspections are for large and small systems. So everybody who's built a patio or a swimming pool or any impervious surface since 2014 that's exceeded 1,000 square feet has executed an operations and maintenance agreement with the township wherein we committed to inspections every 5 years. And so this represents the inspections that would be for permits that were issued 5 years ago. There is an annual MS4 status report submitted to DEP, and then there is miscellaneous compliance assistance. So that's the work they'll be performing for us in the coming year. I would at this time recommend the board authorize me to execute this proposal for services.
I guess my only question is, how are they, is there going to be a written notice to the individual lot owners, dwelling owners, that there will be an inspection? Because I think that's going to be a problem if we just start showing up unannounced.
Right. May I call on you, Matt, and put you on the spot? Yeah, we have a precedent of notices going out and then prior to inspection. So Matt, if you want to elaborate on the
Yeah,
cycle.
there are written notices that are forwarded to every property owner who's going to have an inspection that particular year.
But are we breaking it down to the month or the entire year?
They will receive notification that it will be within a certain month. So,
We're probably not doing them in December, January, February,
No.
you know.
no, so it's generally sent out, I think in around June or July that the inspection will be done. If it's sent, the letter's sent in June, then the inspection will be done in July.
Got it, okay, all right. I just,
And who does the inspection again?
Cedarville does the inspection.
And so they will bill us or the homeowner for the inspection?
well, that's included in this, in the bid out here.
Included in the proposal.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So we don't have to send the bill to the county?
No.
Since they're the ones who required this unfunded mandate?
Let me say, I appreciate the unfunded mandate and agree with the sentiment. I will say there is one mechanism we have, and that is everyone who has signed an O&M agreement also deposited $250 into a fund, and it was one of the funds in the budget that was approved. It's the stormwater escrow. And that $250 is intended to defray future inspection costs. However, we have signed an O&M agreement that has an infinite number of inspections into the future every 5 years, and we received a one-time payment of $250 for that perpetual obligation, hence the unfunded mandate.
What about when the dwelling sells? Is the new homeowner responsible to sign a new one?
The O&M stays with the property, so it is a recorded document. When a new homeowner comes in and signs a deed, the deed will reference that all other documents recorded on that parcel will be honored by the new owner.
So hopefully they have a good title company and an attorney to pick that up.
Yeah, I can imagine that it would be a rude surprise for someone who has not had a title search done.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Jason?
I'm okay.
All right, well, I guess I make a motion to support the 2023 NPS MS4 permit support services for the year of 2023?
Yes.
Right.
2023 in the amount of $31,900, and that would include training, presentation, GIS mapping, inspections, small project stormwater BMP inspections, annual MS4 status reports, and compliance assistance.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, Luke, keep going.
Okay, this is B and C, and the next agenda items here is first the sad part and then the happy part. So I'll start with, I'm sorry to report that Robert Renkin has submitted a letter resigning from the Historical Commission. I'd like to thank Mr. Renkin for his service. Of particular note, during his tenure, he was the driving force behind securing the Jim Croce historical marker, which is now installed on High Spire. That was his project, and it was a huge amount of work, and I appreciate his investment of time and energy in making that a reality. We have, I guess then my recommendation would be we have no choice but to accept his resignation. But
All right, so I make a motion to accept Robert Rankin's resignation from the Historical Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
all right, so at the very next session of the Historical Commission, a gentleman who already serves on the Township's Zoning Hearing Board, Greg Wagman, attended and expressed his interest in filling the vacancy created by Mr. Rankin's resignation. The Historical Commission voted to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that Greg Wagman be appointed to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Rankin. I unfortunately do not have, you would have previously seen a resume submitted in his zoning hearing application, but I did not reproduce his application materials for your consideration this evening.
I think we all know Mr. Wagner anyway. All right, any concerns or questions about Mr. Wagman for the, getting added to the Historical Commission? Hearing none, I make a recommendation for to approve Greg Wagman to the Historical Commission.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we have no subdivision and zoning applications tonight, no ordinance and resolutions for consideration. Do I have any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, notice the board did meet in executive session. I know we announced at the last meeting, but
Yeah, we did announce at the conclusion, and that was for personnel and a rare one, real estate matters.
that was at our last AM session for board.
That's November 3rd.
November 3rd. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.